It was the dawn of the third age of mankind, 10 years after the Earth-Minbari War. The Babylon Project was a dream given form. Its goal, to prevent another war by creating a place where humans and aliens could work out their differences peacefully. It's a port of call, home away from home for diplomats, hustlers, entrepreneurs, and wanderers. Humans and aliens wrapped in 2,500,000 tons of spinning metal, all alone in the night. It can be a dangerous place, but it's our last best hope for peace. This is the story of the last of the Babylon stations. The year is 2258. The name of the place is Babylon 5.
Hello and welcome to Chatz, a television podcast, Season 6, Chatzylon 5. My name is Alan, and his feelings are his own, but how he displays them is our choice. It's Magellan. Hi.
Hey. For this week, listeners have chosen that I display my feelings by just kind of shouting the word of the emotion at the end of each sentence. So, neutral!
Oh, wow. Okay. You're like the race of people from the Mass Effect series, except they do it at the start of every sentence. They'll be like, nonplussed. What the fuck did you just say to me, punk? End sentence, because they don't have inflection
I
in
think
their voice.
maybe you're thinking of HK-47 from Knights of the Old Republic. Condescending!
Oh my god, you're right. No, they definitely did that exact bit twice then.
Yeah,
he does
they
do it.
did.
That's
they
fantastic.
did for sure. They were like, what was a good idea? Oh, I liked when we did that space game that had that one dialogue feature. Let's do another space game where you're on a spaceship.
And there's like Space Friends,
dialogue
except it's
thing.
not Star Wars anymore.
Right.
This ain't Star Wars, baby. This is Babylon 5, and we are Chatz, and we're here to discuss it.
Yeah, baby.
It's winter. It's getting cold out. It's time to sit inside and watch
It's not
television.
winter.
It's fall. You would think if you look at the weather that it's basically winter. It's so cold out now.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love sweatshirts. It's like too gray out in my area, but the temperature wise, it's perfect.
I love this October-November chunk. It's my favorite 2-month stretch of the year. Name me a better 2-month pairing.
I'm trying to think of a better 2-month pairing. Maybe no, I think you're right. At least now in our current age.
Yeah.
Probably the best. If you want to hear more about us talking about holidays and favorite periods of the year, check out Chat's Nights from patreon.com/chatspod.
Yep.
Meow.
Yep.
But no, for now, enough plugging. Let's talk about our episodes this week. We watched Season 1, Episode 13 of Babylon 5, Signs and Portents, as well as Season 1, Episode 14, TKO. First up, Signs and Portents, which was written by J. Michael Straczynski, directed by Janet Greek, aired May 18th of 94, and it takes place from Wednesday, August 3rd to Friday, August 5th of 2258. Magellan, Habibi, my friend, what happened in this episode?
In this episode, a Centauri noble comes to Babylon 5 to transport an important Centauri relic in Londo's possession back to the homeworld. A mysterious man visits all the alien ambassadors, asking them an unusual question. Alan, what did you think of Signs and Portents?
Well, I'm thinking that unusual question, I feel like this summary, which I pulled from the Babylon 5 wiki, is a little bit misleading, because it's like, what do you want? Would you consider what do you want by in itself to be an unusual question?
No, but in context it was unusual.
It's very unusual, yes. So this episode got my gears spinning in a way that was really exciting. I think looking at it as a whole picture, which we'd like to do here, kind of sells it short because, it's a lot of tension building. It's a lot of saying names of things we don't have any context for yet. And people making shocked anime faces about oh my god, they're gonna die to the shadow. And it's that's not, you're just saying words. I don't know what those things mean yet. But you had pointed out to me that you're sure when we have context for this will be a nicer episode to go back and find all those clues and sort of enjoy.
Yeah, we got an email last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that, of I can't remember who it was now, I'm sorry, saying that this show is really like built to be watched a second time, and this feels like an episode that right now it just sort of went over my head. Of okay, so there's this little globe that matters, and I guess that's a big deal, and like this guy is kind of doing stuff, and I'm sure there's like there's sort of like Centauri political intrigue that's being set up about how like the Emperor hasn't shown himself for a whole year, and that kind of thing, where I think if you know what is coming, if you know what is being portented or whatever, then coming back and watching this again is probably like, oh my god, they knew from the beginning. But right now, I yeah, like you said, we don't have any context for it. The one thing that grabbed me was the very end, where is it fine if we just jump to this?
Yeah, go
just
for it.
Just jump to like a moment at the end. Was when Garibaldi said to Sinclair, like, hey, I was doing a little research, and you know that you weren't like the first guy that they wanted, right? And Sinclair said, well, yeah, I know. Yeah, obviously. Remember, I like disappeared in that whole war thing, and it doesn't make sense that I have this huge, big job. Garibaldi's like, yeah. Do you know how low you were on the list? You were like last, bud, or you were real low.
Yeah, right.
And he only has the job because the Minbari, it was part of their deal that they got to have approval of whoever the commander of Babylon 5 was. And so this connects to whatever it was that Sinclair saw in that dream vision memory machine with Delenn, and like maybe Delenn is like secretly, he's a sleeper for the Minbari or something.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, so that stuff I'm pretty on board for, and I'm ready to see where it goes. But the other stuff here, I didn't have enough context to know what was being set up. But later, I'm sure I'll look back and be like, whoa.
Yeah, it's the weird thing, and I had to have this moment, like, after I texted you being like, this episode's wild, I love all these, like, hinting at huge things, is, again, that stuff is cool in the abstract, but at the end of the day, what we want out of our good sci-fi shows is character work, and having that big sci-fi stuff and those big complicated lore things amount to something that affects our characters.
Right.
So I agree that like the way that stuff affects Sinclair, because you can even imagine, like, put yourself in Sinclair's shoes, and you're a new big shot, you're working on this space station that's like really important to sort of the progress of Earth, forming better bonds with aliens, and then what your biggest revelation is, like, you only got this job because somebody else put you here, and like you didn't basically like you didn't earn this job. You're just like the guy that got, like, you were the sort of plant, or you said like the sleeper cell,
right?
And like
it's not even
that
like you didn't. It's not even like you didn't earn it. It's like the group that you fought a war against thought that you would be the best one.
Yeah, like how does that reframe the war for you, and how does that reframe your position and like why you're here and what you're doing here?
Right.
When you know, and now you're positive because your best friend and confidant has confirmed through research that, like, yes, you were not the first choice. You were the last choice, basically. Speaking of character stuff, though, this episode really starts strong. I think it actually it does all its good character work in the first like 20 minutes, and then once we get into like Morden and all the Centauri stuff, it gets kind of dry, like you were saying.
And kind of a little actiony, which is like a lot of space action.
Yeah, which is fun.
You don't really see a lot.
Right. I feel like I didn't love because of like the quality of the CG, that stuff doesn't exactly thrill me right now, but it's like, yes, that is pretty cool that we're fighting these raiders. Like, that's really great. Yeah. I'm glad we're doing it. We start on it's a really good opening scene. Ivanova is waking up from from sleeping, and her alarm clock or whatever like gives her the date, which is cool that we now have the official like dates, August 3rd, 2258. And she goes, why does my mouth always taste like old carpet in the morning? And it's like, hey writers, you realize what you just said, right? Because people talk about, okay, I'm not gonna say it, but you're saying it. I'm not, whatever, we all know what we're talking about. It's great. I'm happy that they did that. And then she gets up and we have this whole like little personal moment where with her and Sinclair where she's like, oh, I hate getting up in the morning. And he's like, oh, do you not sleep well? And she's like, no, I sleep great. It's getting up that's the hard part. It's like, it's very hashtag relatable.
Well, and she's like, I just have trouble getting up when it's dark outside. He's like, it's always dark in space.
She's like, yeah. So yeah, I know. It's really good comedy stuff, and I love it when the show does that kind of thing. It just feels really fun and friendly. And then Garibaldi, like you said, is assigned to investigate Sinclair's missing hours. This guy named Mr. Reno greets Londo with a big black box containing within it the Eye, a MacGuffin-ass MacGuffin, if I've ever seen one.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Just a big bunch of jewelry. It looks kind of like a cheap prop, to be honest. It's like...
Yeah, somebody had a good day at Michael's.
They just glued a ton of like pipes and like sockets together and then like jeweled it, and then they did it. You made a really rare artifact. Or it's one of those things that you get at like the Science Museum gift shop where it's like a dodecahedron that opens when you pull it apart. It's like a tiny one of those. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like really small, but then you can like physically pull it and then it becomes like a multi-sided sphere. I love those toys. Yeah, they're so good. I know what you're talking about. So he gets this thing and he's like, wow, this is awesome. I can finally... Like, what's great is that Londo doesn't take this to be like, sweet, now I can, regain my glory with this thing. He's thinking about like, how do I use this? And like, what do I want to do with this? He's not the like immediately power hungry person who's like, I'm going to use this to go back to Centauri and rule everyone. He's like, interesting that I have this toy. Whereas, we meet Lord Kiro and Lady Ladira, the fam, and it's clear that Lord Kiro very quickly is like, hey, I want that. I want all the power. My family, because he tells, like you were saying, he tells Londo that like the current leader of the Centauri hasn't been seen in a year, and like we have a weird power vacuum now because like he does technically rule, but nobody knows him, so like he feels maybe he's like a puppet government. Maybe we don't know.
Yeah, and it seems like he has grand ambitions to take over the Centauri Republic, basically.
Yeah, and like with any type of that character in a show like this, and grand ambitions can only lead to your downfall. So he's kind of like immediately doomed. I was living for the Londo and Shakara stuff early on in this episode, where they're just lobbing bombs at each other, verbal bombs. So good, just so good. Just like one of the best scenes in the episode is the two of them waiting for an elevator.
Oh my God, I love that scene.
I want to just like I need to like physically recreate that scene because it's so fun. Like there's a guy between them and he's kind of awkward, like nerdy dude, and they're waiting and they're like, oh, you suck. No, you suck. Your guys did this thing. Your guys, and just like progressively screaming, and then the elevator opens and they don't realize it, and further solidifying that they're basically the same person but with a different past. They're like, that's your fault at the door, blah blah blah. And I love these men very much. And so it's interesting then that we're setting up that like, oh, they both have like really good valid reasons to hate each other, because we get Morden who comes on the ship, and I wanted to ask you what you thought about Morden, because like I think the Kiro and Ladira stuff is like my least favorite stuff in the episode. It's like there's a bad guy who wants power on Centauri and wants to steal the Eye, and there's a lady who's a psychic. We've had this exact like kind of thing before, but Morden is sort of where the stuff that I'm interested in is coming from. So he's a dude. I mean, maybe he's a dude. We don't even know if he's human. I don't think he's human because of the nature of how he like comes and goes so quickly. Mm-hmm. He can't be. He's not just a dude. He just says like, I can't leave until everybody answers my fun quiz. And
there's something off about him. Something supernatural.
Exactly. Something beyond the ambassadors on Babylon 5, something bigger, which is why I like it a lot.
Alan, tell me to stop looking at pages on the wiki.
Are you seriously looking at pages on the wiki, Magellan?
I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just looking at the pictures, but I'm done now.
Okay, bad boy. It's a slap on the wrist for you.
I couldn't help. There's some crazy shit in this show.
I know, dude. I know some things. We can't.
It's okay. I don't know anything that means anything. Like, I don't feel spoiled, but it's like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Dude, it goes... All I know is it really goes places. They have, like, vague, like, adjectives describing how and where it goes places. Like, for example, I do know Morden comes back.
Yeah, he seems like he's gonna come back.
He has to. They brought a guy on the ship who can talk to Kosh like a normal person. I need him to come back.
yeah, please. Please, we need that window.
Into that toilet man's noggin, because damn.
Uh-huh.
Sinclair's like, hey, Kosh, what's the deal? And he's like, the river flows backwards on Wednesday. And then Morden's like, hey, Kosh, what's up? And he's like, not much, dude. How's it going? I'm like, give me that. I want more of that. Just please. Because he's walking around the ship at the end, like after he's asked all the quiz questions, and he sees Kosh, and Kosh like surrounds him, and he's like, get out of here. They're not ready or whatever. And then he's like, all right, sorry, bud. Peace. Thanks for talking to you. And then Morden leaves. But yeah, he's asking them all, what do you want? Which is it's almost like one of those questions that like writers have to answer for each of the characters that they make on a TV show like this. You know how like one of the rules of character writing is like you have to know what everybody wants. You have to know what they have and why they want the thing that they don't have and all that stuff.
Yeah. And
so he's basically like, give me, what is your character arc going to look like, guys? Can you please tell me that?
Yeah, he's trying to brainstorm.
Exactly. So he starts by asking Jakar, which is a really fun scene because Jakar like misunderstands the question. He's like, wait, what do I want to eat? I don't know what I want. And he's like, no. Like, what do you want? Like, period. That's the end of my sentence. And Jakar's like, you know what? I kind of want to like completely like obliterate the Centauri and like have them not exist anymore. What's interesting though is like Morden doesn't say much to get this out of people other than like, you gotta answer me. But they open up to him in a way that almost feels like they're being manipulated or something.
Right, like he has some power or something.
Yeah, because they very quickly switch from like, I'm not telling this rando to do this thing, and then he's like, no. What I want, dude, now that you're listening, is I want to mess some stuff up with the Centauri because they suck. Which is valid.
Mean, it's a question of whether or not there's something going on with Morden where he can draw that out of people, or if it's just that we're in an environment where everyone is so ready to like yell what they want at all times because they have to put on this front of we're ambassadors and we got to make deals and be diplomatic.
But as soon as somebody asks you what do you want, it's like, oh yes,
it's like, oh, let me tell you, I see the stuff that goes down in this galaxy or whatever.
I've seen some stuff. I know how it is. Yeah, totally. He asks Delenn what she wants, and yet again, she just doesn't give a straight answer. She instead experiences, quote, a moment of fatigue before kicking Morden out, and then like a silver piece of the Triforce appears on her forehead, and then she's like, they're here, which is like, that's nothing. Thank you, TV show.
Yep.
I know what that means, Magellan. I know exactly what she's talking about. I'm into it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I do. It's so... That's the thing. That's what I'm like, oh, shit.
And you can't tell me what it is?
Correct. But they're here. She's talking about the humans, dude. Come on, you know how it is.
The what?
The humans. The humans
She's
are here on
how
Babylon 5.
There are humans there?
No,
there are always humans there.
I'm misleading you.
Yeah, I'm playing dumb.
This is a bit we're doing.
When I said that.
I'm
playing dumb.
I'm big dumb. Londo, similar, honestly, just so, like, what is the difference fundamentally between Jakar and Londo? I want you to answer that question for me.
Nothing is the answer. Like, that's part of the point, right? Is that they're kind of the same guy.
Right.
It's just that... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they hate each other means that they are kind of self-loathing also. It's just like you don't like your own, but you don't eat your own bullshit.
Right. I think the difference between them is that Jakar still like thinks that he has a future. And
Londo knows he doesn't.
Yeah. Londo's more like looking at the past and nostalgia and, you know, he's a romantic and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I almost see it as sort of a vague like Democrat-Republican thing. And maybe I just have elections on the mind.
I mean, who's who though?
I think Jakar is the Democrat because I mean Londo straight up calls himself a Republican, Because Londo tells Morden, I want to return the Centauri to their former glory. He doesn't say I want to wipe out the Narn. He's not pushing forward. He's saying I want to go backwards.
Yeah.
I want to return things to how they were, which is kind of a hard, very far right Republican way to say things.
I don't think it maps directly to like our Republican Democrat,
Of course.
or even necessarily to like conservative liberal.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that it's about forward thinking versus restorative thinking.
Right.
So I guess that's sort of like conservative, progressive kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just seems like the same character at different stages of their life kind of thing.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. That they're just like 1 or 2 bad days away from being exactly the same person.
Yeah.
Because Jakar definitely seems like, things are great, and I can get the Narn Empire to its desired place. And Londo's like, see, here's the thing: is we were good. Londo is Jeff Newsroom in the first scene of the Newsroom. He's like, we used to build things.
Just call him Jeff Newsroom.
I can never remember his name, so I always call him either Will McAvoy. I always call him Jeff Newsroom when I forget. That's what he is. He's now canonically in Chatz. He's Jeff Newsroom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's just that whole like, man, things were good, and then they weren't good anymore. Yeah. And so, speaking of the whole like getting back to and changing the way the government works, and with the Centauri, Lord Kiro tries stealing the eye. He sets up a ploy where he gets fake kidnapped by some terrorists who we see sneaking around the ship throughout the episode. And then it turns out, like so many plots in this show, that the terrorists were actually hired by the guy who they were kidnapping. It's, pretty standard fare. And then they still threaten him, and they say, like, you're not getting the eye, you're not getting anything. You're going to go back alive, and that's going to be it. Blah, blah, blah.
Right, like as soon as we learn that this was the scheme, they're like, anyway, that scheme is over.
We're not doing that scheme that you just told the audience.
Yeah.
So they take the eye. Eventually, the eye ends up back in the hands of Londo. I guess, well, no, because the terrorists were caught by Garibaldi and company.
Right, in space.
Yes, because they leave space. And I really, really liked Sinclair in this moment where, they've just been like basically set up and gotten kidnapped, and they have a gun in their back. And Londo's like, "Hey, Sinclair, don't make it." And then Sinclair's like, "All right, I got this. This guy, go here. Garibaldi, I want you to lock these doors down, but let them get out to a certain point so that they get out of our like dangerous orbit, and I can still blow them to smithereens. And let's go." And then you get to watch the whole ship come together and take out these bad guys. And like, this is good. This is like some good action stuff, I think.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's all communicated very well. I think like you don't even need to look at it, because like the CG is so bad that you're just like, this pew pew lasers shooting dumb alien ships. Like, that's great. But all of the like people yelling over comms like, they're in orbit, or they're opening a jump gate, is
my butt itches.
Magnifique. Right. It's all fun stuff. And then also, amidst all of this, because a lot of stuff is happening simultaneously in this episode, we got Lady Ladira. And this is the stuff that's like probably all going to make sense in a year or two, or in a couple months, I guess. She's talking, Lord Kiro's like, she doesn't know anything. She's my dumb auntie. He tells Londo that she's usually wrong, a la like fucking Trelawney from Harry Potter. He's like, oh, when I was a kid, she told me I'd be killed by shadows. Dude, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, what is she saying? And then when she's on the ship, she says, the shadows have come for Lord Kiro. The shadows have come for us all. These words don't mean anything to us.
Nope. Except maybe to you, they mean something.
Perhaps. And then also, this one was wild. This is the one moment where I was like, whoa, the CG on Babylon 5 just got good. She has a vision that the ship is going to be destroyed. So, she spends the beginning of the episode being like, they're all going to die. And it's like, that's great. I'm glad you're yet another person on Babylon 5 who's like in hysterics. That's a really good character thing, especially for women. Great. But we actually get to see some of that vision. We not only see the ship blowing up, but we see a very brief shot of like a gigantic, like 5 times the size of Babylon 5, big purple, black, goopy ship just like slamming into it and breaking in half. And like, that's the stuff that I want to see. Give me that weird nonsense and give me like people freaking out and trying to deal with that because I always think back to like Digimon Season 3 where they spent the whole final season fighting like a gigantic red slime that covered the entirety of the city of Tokyo or whatever, and they just had to fight a big pink slime for an entire season. It's delicious. But yeah, so we're just getting a lot of hints of stuff that we don't know about. And the final.
We talked about.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna talk about the final scene.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, after all the bad guys are taken care of, Ladira is leaving, and she makes one last stop to see Sinclair.
Yeah,
and
that's
says,
what I was gonna say.
Right. She says, "Do you trust me, Sinclair?" And he says, "Hell yeah, why not?"
And he's like, "Yeah, sure. I trust anybody.
I literally trust the first person who asked me this question." She puts her hand on his head and shows him the ship being blown up, and he's like, "Damn, is that gonna happen or is that gonna probably happen?" And she's like, he says, "Damn."
Damn.
I didn't even realize.
Shit.
That's good. Is that us?
That
is that real?
Sucks. Ooh, that sucks bad.
Ooh, that's they can't really buff that one out at all. That's gonna be a lot of repairs.
Imagine. Oh my god. What if every TV show just had a moment where the tone like totally shifted so drastically and then the show ended? Oh my god.
Oh shit. No. Damn it.
Dang.
That's
really
that's
like
real.
that place.
Yeah, really like that base that we're on and live on, and
had a lot of my stuff there.
Bought a lot of things. Guess I'm gonna cancel that Amazon order.
Finally perfected my feng shui. What
Anyways, like it's just him doing this as the credits are rolling, like over him. Oh man, a better show, man, a better show. So he's like, "Is that gonna be real or no?" And she's like, "Probably, dude. I don't know. You get to control your own fate. Thanks, TV, telling me how to live my life."
Yeah, her answer was like, "Yeah, these visions don't mean anything because the future can change." And it's like, okay, lady, so they're not visions. You're just having nice dreams.
You're just thinking about justice and stuff. Yeah,
you're just hypothesizing.
This is a theoretical future that could maybe happen if you let it happen, which kind of like defangs everything in this episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we're at. That's an episode. Did you have any stray notes?
No.
No.
Did you?
Not particularly. Mainly when we get all this like big war stuff, they always put Dr. Franklin to the side, and I really just want my favorite character to be in the show regularly now. He deserves more.
It's really odd watching a show where there are all these main characters who sometimes you like don't see them for a week.
Right. And like Delenn never gets a lot. We've never gotten a lot out of
Never see Delenn. I love Delenn.
Give me those rings. And like she's supposed to be kind of mysterious. She's not gonna like be on she's not gonna be in TKO. I get that. And Kosh should not be. He's not really a main character. He's like a technically main character in terms of importance, but like Dr. Franklin's the doctor. He's good. Give me the doctor. Give me the doc. Give me the damn doctor. But yeah, that's I don't have a lot of notes just because most of my notes were like, I want to write this down and get it out on the podcast and say all these things so that when we listen back can be like, oh yeah, we called this.
Yeah. Great.
My prediction. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, go for it. I was just saying great.
My prediction, I mean, they keep talking about war. At some point there probably has to be another war. Like a peacekeeper war, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, there has to be some major conflict.
Like a bigger threat or like ancient aliens or like whatever is going on with the Morden guy. That's got to go
like
somewhere.
The equivalent of like space nukes.
Yeah.
Becoming more widespread or something like that.
Yeah. And getting all the different races together because like this show really, really wants to remind us that like racism is a thing. Like we have like, people don't like each other and maybe we have to band together to fight a common goal. So that's sort of my softball. That is going to do it for that discussion. Let's read an email.
Cool. Can I read this one?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This
Sorry.
Email comes to us from our buddy Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Dan's writing to us about what we talked about last week. Dan says, in various interviews, J. Michael Straczynski has been quite frank about the fact that he had an alcoholic father and that as a result, they didn't have the best relationship. It's fascinating to see how that manifests in scripts because there's a lot of addiction stuff and a fair amount of father stuff that comes up again and again in this show. Speaking to how Survivors dealt with Garibaldi's alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
And after saying that, I watched Survivors and wonder, was this episode necessary, as we wondered? At this point, we already knew that Garibaldi has had a problem with alcohol, and that as a result, he's had problems at various former jobs, and that this posting is his last chance. To that end, this episode almost feels like the beating of a dead horse, or at the very least, it was an encyclopedia entry when we already read the Cliff Notes. Watching this, I was like, I got it. What else do you got? I agree. Just sort of repeating a point that we already knew. And not doing it particularly responsibly, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. If you're going to do it again, do it well.
Dan agrees with me that drunk acting is always bad. And then says, while I'm speaking about bad acting, I want to say that during my rewatch here, I'm a bit ahead of you guys. Okay. On your last episode, I had mentioned that the season has some uneven acting, and I admit that my comments came right on the heels of me watching this episode. Sadly, the acting was just not good here. I thought that the actress playing Liana Kimmer was completely wrong for that role, and as a consequence, it just wasn't a good reading of the lines. And the guy playing Cutter didn't speak much to me either. Even Jerry Doyle as Garibaldi wasn't really hitting the notes for me, and I've definitely seen him do better. Yeah, it's those season 1 blues. I would imagine it gets more consistent as it goes.
Yeah, consistent is the right word, because I have no idea if it gets better.
Right.
But consistent is,
right.
Is what you can expect.
I would imagine. An interesting little side note is that By Any Means Necessary was written by Catherine Drennan, a genre writer and at the time wife of JMS. She also wrote the only Babylon 5 novel considered by JMS to be 100% canon, called To Dream in the City of Sorrows. Oh, that's a good title.
Yummy.
A book with a plot that can't be discussed until much later. Okay.
Wow. Books.
As I watch this show now, I look back on Sinclair and how he handles issues and obstacles, and he always seems to be able to rules lawyer himself out of most issues, and it's refreshing to have a main character who settles things without fists or weapon fire. But upon reflection, I wonder if Sinclair was being set up as a Jesus-like figure, because a good chunk of the New Testament is people putting Jesus into a position of having to make an impossible choice, and he always gets out of it by coming up with a third option that nobody saw coming. It's a parallel that I like to think about. That's awesome. I think it'd be great to do a show that's just like the New Testament, but you change all the names and you change the setting and you just do it.
Have they not done something like? What is it? Joan of Arc? The show that we
Joan
constantly. Joan of Arcadia is just Joan of Arc, but in a different setting, or like there's the one that's the
Joan of Arc
the
isn't in the Bible, my dude.
I know, but she thinks about the Bible. It's the same idea where it's like a known story reappropriated to a different time.
Yeah. All right.
Also,
right.
just to speak to what Dan's saying, the idea of like a Jesus figure in media has been talked about like since before The Matrix, and people are like, Neo's a Jesus metaphor, and it's like, well, it's more like writers like to put that character in that, like you said, has the perfect third option, or is the Messiah that was like prophesized to be the hero. Like that is more common than anything, more than the actual like.
This is like a slightly different Jesus metaphor than Neo, though, because the Neo Jesus metaphor is like Son of God, Chosen One, superpowers, and this is like pretty creative.
But isn't Sinclair kind of the chosen one from the Minbari?
Yeah, I guess, but in like a evil way.
Yeah,
like if Jesus was chosen by the devil to be Jesus.
Oh snap!
Yeah,
I dig this.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Dan goes on to say, this I love. This is great. Just as a small side note, the Rush Act was named after Rush Limbaugh, a man that JMS had a low opinion of and probably still does to this day. My stepdad would play a lot of Rush Limbaugh in the car, so I also have a low opinion of that man. Of Rush, that Rush guy.
Of that concept.
Dan then comments on the conversation that we were having last week about episode viewing order and says, as far as episode viewing order goes, I think that you'll be fine to watch the episodes as listed. As I've been doing my own rewatch, I've just been doing it in that order myself. It doesn't break canon in any significant way, but you'll just notice little irregularities. Like in season 1, some characters will act a certain way in one episode, and you might think, why did they act that way? Then in a, quote, later episode, the precipitating event will occur. Mm-hmm. Toward the end of the season, Delenn starts constructing a machine, and how far along it gets built will be out of order. But it will be nothing where you'll be like, I don't understand anything that's happening. And I'm sure that someone like Dax or me will be quick to jump in and be like, well, actually.
Thank you.
One thing they would suggest we do, though, if for no other reason than to get an occasional change of pace, is to watch the movies where they fall in the timeline. Even that can be a tiny bit tricky. For example, the movie Third Space technically would happen if you watch like the first 8 minutes of the episode Atonement, pause it, and go watch the movie, then come back and finish the episode. But I think you'll be fine to just watch it in its recommended spot of just before Atonement. However, when you get to the spin-off show Crusade, I would suggest that you watch the suggested episode order because in the way it was shown, it was basically a nonsensical mess. Good to know. We'll talk about that more as it becomes relevant later on. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dan.
Much appreciated. Yeah, I'm actually glad to hear that because I was like reading more and more about the sort of chronological order of episodes, and it seems like one of those things where, yeah, like Dan is saying, you're not losing anything by that. Like, we're not gonna like have more negative opinions as a result of that. It's more just like, this makes a little bit more sense now. This is a little bit more in context because it goes back and forth a little, and that's cool. I'm curious about this machine that Delenn makes. I don't know what the hell that could be.
Yeah, who knows?
It's like a space.
I guess
machine.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we are. If people don't know already, we have I have the viewer's guide posted in the notes for every episode, but we are gonna follow the movie order posted by the Lurker's Guide. So like, we are not watching a movie until season 4, episode 8, which is then when we're gonna stop and watch Third Space, and then finish season 4, and then watch it in the beginning, and et cetera, et cetera.
All that stuff, yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, Dan.
Great.
We will be right back after a brief musical break to discuss TKO.
Welcome back to Chatzylon 5. The second episode we watched this week was Season 1, Episode 14, TKO. Total Kite. Oh, yeah. That's what we're doing at the park today. Bringing a whole kite.
What's the kite shaped like?
It's a diamond shape.
It's the classic.
Just your classic kite.
Classic kite. Have you ever flown a kite?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Who wrote the episode? Next conversation. Wow.
This episode was written by Lawrence G. DiTilio, directed by John C. Flynn III. It aired May 25th, 1994. You're still not alive yet, by the way.
Correct.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
And it takes place August 2258. Alan, what happened in TKO? Total Cosmonaut Overdrive.
Ooh. You did it. That one's good. We'll use that one.
That's my band. That's my new band.
Schmel Magellan. Schmel? Well, Magellan. Schmel. It kind of works.
Well, Schmel.
Well, Schmel. In this episode, Garibaldi is surprised. That's it. That's the description.
Yeah. Whoa.
Wow. All right. Wow. Weird.
This is my impression of Garibaldi surprised.
Whoa.
No, here it is. Wait, hold on. It's like, whoa. Damn.
Whoa. Damn it. He's actually surprised when an old friend comes to visit him to fight in the Muay Thai, a savage alien fighting arena. Meanwhile, Ivanova has trouble dealing with her father's death. That is a bad description, because those should be flipped. One of those things should have one word for it. The other one should have a whole paragraph because... And if you're wondering, hey, guys, why are you, like, walking around talking about the episode? It's because nothing matters in TKO. This is the worst episode of Babylon 5 so far. What are you guys doing?
I was having a hard time placing my feelings about it, and you texted me and you said, this episode doesn't need to exist. And you're right. It does not need to exist. And Garibaldi may have been surprised that an old friend came to Babylon 5 to visit.
But we're not.
I was not surprised that a character on Babylon 5 had an old friend come by. Not taken aback by that. I think, like, the reason that happens is because this is a show where the ensemble is not a group of characters who hang out. And
they
so
have
if
to have
you
people
want a
who hang out
character
with them.
Yeah, if you want a character to, like, have a plot, you need to invent new people to talk to them.
Mm-hmm. You have to just concoct new reasons for them to go to the Zocalo and have a drink, because we can't just have Ivanova and Garibaldi hanging out. That doesn't make sense. Jakar and Londo hate each other. They wouldn't party.
It's not Patty's Pub. It's not the Central Perk. It's
not Moe's Tavern.
Moe's Tavern. It's not Carla's nursing station.
It's not Cheers.
Did you know
Wait,
hold on.
Did
you know that on Scrubs? What?
Carla's nursing station?
Carla on Scrubs.
Oh.
Because the thing, what they did with Scrubs is that they, like, used an abandoned hospital as the set. But the thing is, they, like, when they got the building, they were like, there's no place for people to hang out. They redid one of the floors, or like a couple of them, to give natural places where it would make sense for characters to congregate.
Interesting.
Anyway, something to think about. Yeah, so I wasn't surprised that Garibaldi has a friend. I was a little taken aback with the way that he's kind of, like, trying to talk like a black guy while he's talking to his friend. That was definitely happening, right?
He's doing a little bit of code switching and being like, hey, man, what up? What's good? Like, kind of doing that sort of, that city talk, that, like, earth talk. And it kind of makes sense because, like, you talk to an old friend of yours and you code switch, but not when you're the white guy. Like, Garibaldi.
It just seemed kind of weird.
Everything around,
like, it makes sense, but yeah,
it's still weird. And everything around Walker Smith is really kind of fraught.
Right. It's like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Do you want to know why he's called Walker Smith? Do you want me to? Can I publicly embarrass Lawrence G. DiTrillo, actually?
Is it related to Walker, Texas Ranger?
No, better than that.
Okay. Give me a hint. Can I figure it out?
It has to do with his occupation.
Does he make canes?
No. No, it has to do with the character's occupation.
Yeah, does he make canes?
No.
What's his occupation? A fighter?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Walker Smith Jr., also known as Sugar Ray Robinson, the boxer.
Oh, okay.
They just named him after Sugar Ray Robinson. They just did that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have a hard time naming characters in my stories, too. It's tough sometimes.
Sometimes I'm just like, Jeff. Oh, whoops, they did that too. Like, I don't know, random girl named Susan. Wait, shit. Is this the lazy, like, all the humans have the laziest names ever? Like Mike, Mike, Susan, and Jeff?
And then, yeah, that's them. And then Jakar, it's like, hey, JMS, check out my SpaghettiOs. I think I've got a great idea. Oh, wait, no, SpaghettiOs are just O's. I meant,
I'm gonna name this character
alphabet soup.
I'm gonna name this character. Ooh, I did it. That's his name. He's from the land of.
The O's start to drift apart. So by the time JMS gets over there, it's like, you want to name him.
If you can get some
apostrophes, very good.
Get some apostrophes in there, and it's done.
what were we talking about? This guy, Walker Smith?
Yeah, sure.
I just don't get the logic of creating an episode where like the arc is entirely centered on a character that we met 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That just doesn't work on any show. Name me a show where that worked. Yeah. Have you ever seen that work?
Have you seen what?
That work where like it's an episode about a character who's just here for this episode and it's them and it's good.
Kind of. I mean, I've seen ideas where it's like here this character's arc says something about the world that needs to now reflect on our main characters and that they're going to learn about themselves. Like Gundam does that kind of thing, right? Because it's a show.
But that's more like a world building thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I agree that works when it's for the purpose of giving you like another angle of the world that you needed to have. But this guy's just some random like, you can do it if you try hard enough. Boxing movie story.
They put Rocky in Babylon 5, or they put Creed in Babylon 5 actually. The thing is, you can almost see the end of it because the whole thing is, he comes on the ship and he's like, I used to be a successful boxer, but I'm not anymore. So I'm coming here and I'm going to do the Muay Thai so that the aliens accept me and then I can get a job anywhere. And I get that. That's a fine motivation to do what you're doing. And I also want to talk about, like, just as a side note, what's the deal with the Muay Thai existing on Babylon 5? Because
I don't get it.
Garibaldi's first thing is like, oh, Walker, you can't do that. The Muay Thai is like no holds barred, no gloves, no rules. Just you fight until someone dies. And like, that's terrible. And then that's not true. They have like hand wraps, and also there are rules. They stop when it seems like they're both done, which completely goes against that. And then also like, there's a ton of that's definitely more than the population of the down below. So there are people who live up above that are going to an underground fight, a quote unquote underground fighting arena, and it's fine. They're not going to get in trouble for it. It's not necessarily illegal. It's just like, I guess we let the poor people fight it out every couple of weeks with this guy, and they can have their like murder festival because it keeps them complacent, which is kind of how I saw it, which is like it exists out of necessity.
Right.
But then you get like one of the guys, and this is like the whole dramatic arc of this fight is they're basically trading blows back and forth. They don't accept him at first. He's like, oh no. And then this guy who decides to be his Mickey is like, I'll train you and I'll teach you the secret to getting into the Muay Thai. You have to accept the challenge and then offer it back at the guy. And so the big guy loses or is winning a fight, and he says, anyone want to challenge me? And Walker's like, I'll challenge you. And now you have to take me because I said so. And everyone's racist. And then they go to the fight. He gets trained. All of this happens too fast, by the way. Like that trainer guy gets like 2 lines.
Right.
He's like, I can teach you. My name is Caliban, which I believe like means something from the Bible. Speaking of biblical references, and is also an X-Men character name. Mm-hmm. Oh no, it's from The Tempest. That's what Caliban is from. William Shakespeare's The Tempest. And then he gets trained, and then he goes into the fight, and then some like racists are trying to shoot a dart at him to kill him. Garibaldi stops them and then is like, hey guys, we need you here at the Muay Thai. And it's like, wait, you guys know, like the cops know the Muay Thai exists and they don't care?
Yeah, like he's the head of security. And he's like, hey guys, we need to have decorum in this underground like fighting arena where people bloody each other and try to kill each other every day.
Yeah. And
it's so weird.
None of it makes any sense. None of it matters. And then they tie, and they're both on the ground. And I guess like the referee like measures how far to the ground they are. He like puts a staff on their backs, and he's like, it's a tie. And they're like, sick. And then they leave, and everyone's like, don't let the human get a victory. That's stupid. And then the guy who he fought against is like, you deserve it. You won. Now every human is allowed to fight in the Muay Thai. You have conquered racism. Congratulations.
Yep.
Like, excuse me? What did that mean anything? And that's why I was like, none of this matters. It's because like we introduced the concept of the Muay Thai and then like fixed its conflict in one episode. Like now,
right.
we never need to see this again. We never need to think about the Muay Thai ever again.
And thus, it can be allegorical for nothing.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's nothing in our world that maps to that easily.
Yeah.
So,
Like you conquer racism by like fighting your way to the top? Like no, that's not.
yeah, it's like what are you're doing like a Jackie Robinson thing
Right.
or something?
Like
'Cause
exact.
that's
Yeah.
also not how that went.
Yeah.
It wasn't like now we're cool with no
all
more
black
racism
people.
in baseball forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Like that time Abraham Lincoln signed a piece of paper and then they weren't allowed to have any more slaves ever.
Yeah, that went pretty well. That was
went,
good.
That went
I'm
perfect.
actually going to teach about that in my class.
Very exciting. You should tell. You should frame it like that. You should be like, all right, guys, we're gonna watch TKO. This is Babylon 5 episode.
Yeah, bear with me.
Yeah.
It's going to take the whole class period.
None of it matters. Even if you're watching the show, not to our
I
class.
pause every once in a while, and I'm like, so this is Jeffrey Sinclair. He's the commander.
He's great. He has a thing in his brain. That'd be so funny.
Yeah.
God, yeah. And then, so that's that plot. I actually do like some ideas and most of the acting in the Ivanova dad funeral sitting Shiva plot is kind of good.
Can I just say one more thing about the Walker Smith?
Of course you
a straight
can.
note of that. I did like the one line where they're reuniting at the beginning, and Garibaldi's like, I heard a lot of stories about you, and he's like, do you believe any of them? He's like, Garibaldi's like, no, none of them. And then Walker Smith is like, I've heard some stuff about you. Garibaldi's like, yeah, you believe that stuff? And he's like, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I do. You're crazy.
You're wild, man. I can't believe you have a job. You're the head of the
Yeah.
cops.
Yeah. Anyway, that was fun. And then the rest was boring.
Very boring.
But yeah, Ivanova, let's talk about her plot.
Yeah. So if we remember from a couple episodes back in Born to the Purple, we learned that her father died and that he regretted in his final moments that he wasn't a better father to her. So she still has that in the back of her head when she runs into her old rabbi on the ship. What's the rabbi's name? I should know this guy's name, right?
Koslov?
Rabbi Koslov. You're right. He comes on the ship, I guess, because he wants to ask her about this whole situation and how she is handling it, both emotionally and everything, because he's like, a second father to her, pretty much.
Right. He steps off his pod, and whoever he was he with Walker Smith, or am I misremembering that?
No,
on
they were
their
not
trip?
together.
No, it was just some other person who was
Mhm.
talking to him. It was
Mhm.
like a separate scene.
Believe
For
so.
some reason, I imagine that scene is them like walking away from each other off to meet their like respective people who
Have their
are on
A
the
and
ship.
B plots in different corners.
Yeah. Let's check back in at the end. But the person that he was on the ship with was like, wow, he said something like, oh, I've never met a Jewish person before, or something like that. Or like, what happened in this scene? It was such a bizarre moment to introduce this character, because I thought he was like a one-off, like that was just like setting the tone of the space station,
Oh, like
People
there's
meeting.
a Jew on the space station, just like in general, like
No,
the
not just like the idea of people walking around and being like, oh, it's so great to meet somebody from a different culture. I thought that was just sort of like in the environment dialogue, and then he becomes a character. You need to
I
see what I'm saying.
understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Anyway, it was bizarre.
Yeah, so the rabbi is interesting. I do that whole introduction of him is bizarre, and we get him running into Ivanova in her room. The wonderful, wonderful scene. Both scenes of Ivanova this week are the best, where she's sitting and she's asleep and she's awoken by the alarm and she can't wake up. Very relatable, very good. And then this scene is she's just reading a great book, listening to some jazz. She's actually reading Harlan Ellison's autobiography. So like his portrait is on the back of it. The book is called Working Without a Net, and she's like giggling and enjoying it. And then like ding dong, who's this man? It's Rabbi Koslov. He tells her, "Oh, how's everything going with your dad? I'm sorry to hear about your father dying." She's like, "It's okay. I'm really busy at work." And he says, "Did you have a chance to sit Shiva yet?" And I really appreciate that the show didn't feel the need to explain that to me. They just they're like, these are two Jewish people talking to each other. She knows what sitting Shiva is. They don't need to explain that to the viewer.
Also, sorry, I went back and I looked at the episode just to be sure, and it's 100%. The rabbi and Walker Smith are getting off the pod together.
Oh, the first scene of the episode, is it?
The very,
You're
very
right.
first scene.
I'm sorry.
So they're getting off. I'm watching it right now.
Yeah.
And the rabbi says, it was a pleasure traveling with you. Walker Smith says, oh, he's, not every day you meet a man with such an interesting life. And he's like, same to you, Rabbi.
Okay, so then they do just go like, all right, see you at the end of the episode.
They shake hands, and then they're like, we're going to go meet the people we know. Anyway,
that's really funny.
It's silly.
Yeah, and she's like, oh,
yeah, I like that they didn't that they made the fact that she's Jewish as like totally normal as possible.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that's who she is, and we all understand on a basic level some Jewish customs and traditions, and so we're going to tell this story about a person and like this death that she's experienced, and we're going to have a specific angle that you get that's slightly different than maybe you see typically in other shows where someone has a death in their family. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to like exoticize it in any way. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was good.
Yeah, and she says, I'm too busy to sit Shiva because, technically if done properly, you sit Shiva for about a week. And so she's like, I can't take a week off. I run like a really important role on a really important ship. Like, I can't do that. He's like, that's fine. I get it. And then nosy rabbi is like, hey, Sinclair, like, did you know that her dad died? And he's like, no, what? And he's like, yeah, in our culture, she's supposed to like mourn him for a long time. And he's like, that seems respectful. I'm a good character, and thusly I'm going to let her do that. I'm supposed to be a nice person. And then Rabbi goes back to her and says, like, your boss said you're allowed to. And then she gets really sad because, now she's actually being challenged on a thing she, didn't want to do. We understand that the reason she doesn't want to do that is because she didn't really have a good relationship with her father. He was not kind to her, and the whole thing with her mom and the Psi Corp stuff, like, sent a lot of big rifts through their family. And honestly, most of this plot line is her walking and talking through her grief with the rabbi and them trying to understand, like, what, like, can you mourn somebody even if you don't think you loved them, or maybe if you think that the love for them is complicated, and how do you mourn them in that case? Like, right. When do you have to put your job aside and your desire to be like stone cold and like forward thinking when, your father is no longer with you? You're allowed to grieve. Right. So like I said, it's all handled pretty well. I think, though, eventually it gets a little corny when she's like, things are happening all the time. There was a crisis like the day he died. There was a whole episode, and she shows him the whole episode Born to the Purple, and we just watch it within the episode. It's really weird. And so she's just busy. And then I guess like the rabbi leaves after a while because they've been talking about this, and he kind of agrees. Like, she says, my feelings are my own, so how I display them or not is my choice, which is what I talked about calling you in the beginning. He says, that's fine, I understand that. And then he gets ready to leave. And then she has a moment where she remembers her father's final moments, and he says, I wasn't a good dad. I'm sorry. A father is supposed to give his daughter love and understanding and caring, and I gave you none of those things, and I'm bad. She cries. It's kind of a nice moment. Then she runs up and she says, Uncle Koslov, and gives him a hug, and then says, we'll sit Shiva. And then we just get that. We totally get that. Yeah. We get to watch her with her, like, I guess her family, or like her, the other fellow, like, community members on the ship. And they sit Shiva, and they do the thing where you like eat together and drink tea together and talk about the person who passed away in a positive and happy way. And it's like perfect. Yeah. But I think, like we were saying, this episode feels like it has no place. I do like that we're learning more about Ivanova, and I like her a lot, and I'm like glad to know that she's Jewish, and that's important to her character. But like, whatever. Like, okay, so she learned that grief is okay, and it's a moment for her, and it's personal, and that's great.
I'm sort of torn because this is not. There's a continuity of her emotions here that's acknowledged by this episode that I really appreciate, because it's saying, hey, the episode where her dad died and he said, I'm sorry, did not fix everything. This is still something that is like in the back of her mind and she hasn't dealt with. So now she's got to deal with it. That is good.
Mhm.
The thing is that I think we still have this lingering weird feeling of the way that death was presented to us in the first place, where it was just like a throwaway side plot that kind of took us by surprise. We didn't really know Ivanova yet, and so we still are looking at this as like, okay, I didn't really know your dad in this show, and I still don't know you super well. I know you a little better. So we don't, again, like, we don't need this right now. And
We're
that's
just
why, yeah.
It's fascinating to me that we're getting all the emotional moments for this character who was set up early on as like not being emotional.
Yeah.
And that's intentional, right? We're
Right.
not going to get right now at least like big emotional moments for Delenn. And we're not going to like learn about Sinclair's past other than his relationship to the war, because that's not the kind of show. That's not what we're trying to do. All we know from his past is that he's a Jesuit or that his parents were.
Right.
I'll never forget that they mentioned that. But it just, yeah, it feels like why, and especially like on a sci-fi show, to just have this whole thing about religion. Like, religion is important on Babylon 5. When we went on the Wikipedia page for this show while we were watching The Gathering, Charlie said that one of the themes on the show was religion. And like,
Yeah.
cool, I understand that. But like, what do we learn from this? What is moving us forward? And
Yeah, I don't know.
to sort of eat my own, or sort of to counter my own point, I guess. I don't really know a better metaphor for this, but I love
my own shorts, so to
to
speak.
eat. Yeah, there you go. To eat my own shorts. Bart Simpson. I do like it when the show gets lore heavy and does stuff and talks about the shadows and the prophecies and all that crap.
Yeah.
Love it. But I also constantly say, like, lore should never get in the way of character development. And this is all
Agreed.
character development. That's all this Ivanova plot is like learning about this person's interiority and how they grieve. And we should know that. I just found it boring.
It's tough. I think
It's much better than the A plot.
it is. I also don't know how much her character is really developing.
Okay.
I don't know. She's going through a difficult I guess that's not right. I think it's just like it's in this episode where nothing matters, and so I'm inclined to be like, ugh, this episode's bad. But
Also,
yeah,
I don't know. It seems like this show often forgets the easy like rule for writing shows with A and B plots is like, if you connect them thematically, then both of them are elevated by it. And these plots have nothing to do with each other.
Nothing tying them together whatsoever.
In the slightest. Like, people coming onto the ship is which
right,
is
it
every
seems like that
Babylon
first
episode.
scene is like a loose attempt at trying to create some connecting thread.
Yeah. But like one of them happens, its takes place primarily in her room and her spaces. The other one takes place in an underground fighting arena. Like, they're physically far apart too. It's not just a joke that these two guys meet each other in the beginning and then go literally opposite ways on the ship. But yeah, that's basically what I got, man. Like, I thought it was funny that Sinclair is again made the good guy in all of this, and Ivanova's like, today I'd like to read the passage in English tonight for my friend Jeffrey Sinclair. And also, because it's an American viewing audience and some of them don't understand Hebrew and we didn't want to do subtitles or have the actress learn Hebrew. So, I'm going to read this in English. But yeah, that's like one of the final scenes of the episode, pretty much. It's a forgettable one.
Yeah.
Did you have any notes on this guy?
No, I said all my stuff. What about you?
Yeah, I really loved just everything about that scene where she's reading the book. She's lounging in like a nice purple vest. I wish I could lounge in a purple vest. I just need to
get purple vest.
Yeah, I need to get. Yeah, let's get me a purple vest. Step one. I really liked the rabbi's acting. I thought he was really charming and fun. He's just like Jewish, but not in a stereotypical way, but in a way that like I've met people like him. Even in my like church, I've met people like him. And the way that him and Ivanova talk about her father is really funny. I think he has the line where he says, her dad always said, if regret could be harvested, Russia would be the world's fruit basket, which is like the most Russian thing to say in the world. Is like, Russians are like this, though. Yeah, I really like the whole feelings are my own and how I display them is my choice thing. And then there's just some corny stuff. Oh, also, yeah, this is from the Lurker's Guide. If you are wondering and you were trying to nitpick, like, why did they only sit Shiva for like a day if you're supposed to sit Shiva for a week? Or because they clearly they didn't do a time skip. He like was there for like a day or two and then stopped. The rule is if the person was buried a while ago, if they've already been buried, or if they died a while ago, then you don't sit for a whole week. You only do it for a couple days. So they did like address that, I guess.
Good to know.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got tonight on this episode. So, Magellan, please do me a favor. Tell me what we're watching next week on Chatzylon 5.
Well, this is very exciting, Alan, because I'll say this and then you can cut it out if you want to. This is very exciting, Alan, because next week is the first week that you're alive.
You can't keep. That's good.
Yeah.
I'll allow it. Yeah, I finally exist.
We're watching 2 episodes of Babylon 5 next week, as we do. The first is Season 1, Episode 15, Grail. A man who has spent his life searching for the Holy Grail arrives on Babylon 5. So that sounds like a side episode. And then, Season 1, Episode 16, Eyes. An colonel? There's a typo in this summary. A colonel investigates Sinclair and his command staff for recent station actions. Ooh. Okay. An investigation.
Yeah, so we're definitely getting one filler episode and one important episode now, and maybe that's going to be a back and forth thing for a while.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Exciting. That is going to do it. So let's take it to the plug zone. The plug zone. You can, of course, follow Chatz online and send us feedback at chatspod@gmail.com or at chatspod on Twitter, CHATZPOD. And if you could, please consider backing us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/chatspod. Please. Give me some money once a month. We'll give you something in exchange. Specifically, at $2, you'll get movie commentaries every month. And at $5, you'll get a hangout show. Like we just mentioned before, our latest one is about our favorite holidays. So stay tuned for the secrets of our holiday preferences. Stay tuned. Listen in. Tune in. Those words. There's too many words.
Oh, yeah.
Magellan, what is your chatsum for this week?
Well, Alan, I'm really into season 2 of Making a Murderer right now. That's not true. I don't want
I was going to say, shut the fuck up.
I've heard it's good.
Sure.
I don't watch it. I don't have time to watch TV. No, you know what? Today in class, I showed a clip of the HBO series John Adams, and I've only ever seen this 6.5-minute clip about the passage of the Alien and Sedition Acts, but it's good. Because there's a scene where he's talking to the other Federalist senators, and they're like, Mr. Adams, the French, they're trying to spy on us. We got to pass these laws. And he's like, I don't know, you guys. And then he's on the couch with Abigail Adams, and she's reading all the stuff that people are saying about him in the newspaper. And he's like, ignore it. It's pretty funny. And then there's a scene where he's like talking to Jefferson, and there's like Dutch angles, and he's got a Scottish accent. It's like, yeah. Yes.
Dutch
Paul
angles.
Giamatti is in there. He's John Adams.
Fuck yeah.
Love it.
You should watch that. I've watched most of it. It's really fun. Or it's like interesting. It's not fun.
The parts of it that I've seen I've been like, wow. So my chatsum is something that I want to watch.
Yeah, it's aspirational chatsums. I like that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, dude?
Well, I this week would like to recommend. So here at Chatz Studios, located in Sunnydale, California. That's not true. We want to dismantle 2 things. We want to dismantle capitalism.
Yep.
And our other agenda is to dismantle gender. So, all the boys out there, I want you to go ahead and go down to your local nail salon, and I want you to request a pedicure.
Oh yeah, you
dude. I actually got a mani and a pedi today. It's so fucking good. Oh, so you may be thinking like, I'm a guy. I'm not supposed to go in there. I always see guys in there. 100% of the time I go, I see guys there. I've never not seen it. It's weird. It's not weird, actually. That's what I'm getting at. Like you go there. You sit for 5 minutes, and then they go, come over here. And then they put you on like a elevated massage chair that you can play with and do whatever you want. And then they dunk your feet in some nice water. And then a wonderful woman like bathes your feet and like cuts your nails for you and like files them and like makes them perfect. And then like the best part is they rub like orange sand on your knees and then just like massage your knees with sand, and it's the fucking best feeling in the world. And you never have to talk to them. So if you're antisocial, you just look at your phone and they don't care because they're talking to each other in their own language. Like, so there's no like social expectation. And you got to try it. You don't knock it until you try it. That's always one of my like big life things. Don't knock it until you try it. And if something seems hard, it's probably worth doing. Those are, I probably see my two biggest like pieces of advice to the future generation.
Nice.
But yeah, give it a shot. It's like $20 to just do your feet, and then it's like 30 to do both.
Sweet.
Yeah. Oh shit, the fire. This episode's too fire, dude. It's too fire.
It's too fire.
We're getting in big trouble. I'm sorry, New York Fire Department. I'm sorry. But that, just before they kick us out, that is going to do it for this episode of Chatzylon 5. Peace.